All right, welcome back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. This has been an intense conversation. We've weaved in and out. It's gone fast, but I'm going to do a past and a future. Okay, we did the present. We're going to do the past and future. So, past. What advice would you give yourself besides don't take the bus from LA to Vegas to see Nick and end up playing roulette with a crown prince from Qatar or whatever weird country with somehow with vomit on your shredder from the night before we were out of town. Besides don't do that, give advice to your younger self.
I would say to my younger self, despite the stresses, the anxieties, and the worries that I was constantly carrying throughout the mailroom and as an assistant and as a young agent, it actually will be okay. It will turn out all right. It's just so hard to see even 1 foot in front of you when you feel like you're drowning and you're trying to keep your head above water.
Yeah. So I will add to that by saying any person who thinks that stress and anxiety aren't part of life is
crazy. They're out of their minds.
Stress is a body's reaction, and you are going to cortisol because your body is reacting to something. And anxiety is because we used to be wanderers that were hunters and gatherers that would be chased by animals trying to kill us. That's what anxiety is. It's telling your body that it's time to run, it's time to fight or flight. So it's how you handle that anxiety and that stress that differentiates the most success. Some people get off on it and the stress makes them want to do more. Mm-hmm. Some people just take a step back and be like, you know what? It's not as bad as I think I am. But I think advice to everybody is it's never as bad as you think it is. And if you look and have context, there's always somebody that has it way worse than you.
Yeah.
That being said, when you get to this point in your career, you could easily look back and say, I am worth this much, not because of right now, because of all the crap that I put in back then.
Yes.
And it is a really hard thing, but I could tell you this, bosses and the highest of people, they have an eye for that.
Yeah.
They want you to hold that grudge about those things back then, because that's what makes you pressing forward and keep wanting more, which is part of what you want in life.
Well, and I think related to that, and to me, this is something that I tell as many people as I can. One of the most dangerous things that I used to do was compare myself to other people.
Yeah.
I used to look at everyone else around me and think they're bigger, they're better, they're faster, they're stronger.
Yeah.
And it used to take a real toll on me. But what I didn't realize, because I didn't have the tools at the time, I have the tools now, right? In my late 30s, working with my therapist for several years, I have the tools now to realize that I was so deep in my own narrative that I just assumed others thought about me what I thought about myself.
Yeah.
And that's was
human nature. That's not you. That's everybody. You make a depiction of yourself of what you believe other people to think of you. That's
correct.
And there's a million things.
Well, and I was comparing myself to everyone around me because I thought they were better than me.
You know, that's so funny. I think if I was going to say one of the superpowers I have is since the day I don't give an effing crap about what someone thinks about me. And you know me, I've lived a lot of places. I've moved a lot. I've seen a lot of things. I've failed. I've succeeded. I've kind of winged it. And a lot of it just because like I was young, I didn't feel tethered to anywhere, and seeing all those things have changed my perspective. But you know, everybody, the most wealthy, the most happy people, usually the ones that go home to the most family problems, right? The ones that are always, the ones that are showing off their $1 million cars are the ones that have the most debt.
That's right.
You only see the tip of the iceberg, which people show you. The other thing is that when my kids were born, I made a conscious effort that social media was over. And the reason is that I have no shame. If pictures came out from me back in the day, yeah, my wife might divorce me, but other than that, I'll be fine. I don't want my children to be tied to these outward facing mechanisms that they feel like they have to be those things.
Well, and social media is unfortunately everyone's Sports Center top 10. Social media is everyone's highlight reel.
And they only see the best. I saw a girl, I'm not going to say who it was. I was at a concert and I saw a girl and she was sitting there and she would literally take a picture of herself and zoom in and like correct her teeth on Instagram before she would post. In the middle of a concert, we were watching the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what you're doing in the middle of a concert? That's what your life is? And that sucks, man.
Yeah, so I feel bad for someone like that.
We've gone off topic. So let's end with this, okay? I have been in the music industry through Live Nation, the sports industry for a long time. You have been an agent. You have been involved in all of this. What does the future of these deals look like? Where do we go from here? Because I have seen brands are going to cut back.
Yep.
You're going to see brands, they're so overstretched. The Deltas of the world, the Amexes, they are stretched in so many different places.
That's right.
Where do we go? I think AR becomes a thing, augmented reality. So you have these brand experiences that really pop up. So instead of in, let's say, a baseball game, you're between innings. Now all of a sudden the outfield pops up and you have these characters coming out that are become advertisements, but it's engaging. I think that will play, technology will always play a part, but where do you see some of these partnerships going in the next couple of years?
I think both as consumers and as brands, the thing that is the most effective is to create lasting memories, right? If you're a brand and you're sampling a physical product as people walk out of a venue or a sports stadium, that product is a consumable. It will be consumed. It will be thrown in the trash. Right? Yep. But a memory will last forever. So I believe that we'll see a lot of brands start investing more in memory making, virality type moments in time. I think.
Would you agree? The problem is those are very hard to fake. And the thing is,
they're very hard to fake.
I hate the word organic just like you do, but there are moments that are organic that are memorable, and there are things that are forced. And
yeah.
If you force them, the consumer has gotten smart enough to know that that's a fake memory.
Yeah. Look, faked or not, one of my favorite marketing campaigns ever is Lyft's Undercover Driver. I just think it was so brilliant and so smart. And it's campaigns like that to me personally, as one human, but as someone who works in the industry, I believe they're really impactful. The Undercover Driver was never take Lyft. Lyft is the best. It was a content play. Yeah. It was a brand who wanted to have a little bit of fun. Do you know who's doing it the best in the world right now? Liquid Death. There is nobody better, in my opinion, that's marketing better than Liquid Death.
You want to make a bet?
Sure.
Okay. That company will either be sold off in the next 6 months, or because that momentum that they've created, there's no way it continues. They're going to have to go mainstream. They're going to have to be standardized to get into the Krogers of the world and everything. They will either be sold off. All those people the growth will stagnate and they will become like every other brand. And here's why. When all of a sudden you realize you're going to the grocery and your groceries are now $200 instead of $100, and you realize you're paying for water in a can because of marketing, you're going to be like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So it's not a criticism. They've done a wonderful job.
Incredible.
But I've been around a lot of CMOs and all of them say the same thing. These flash in the pan brands, but they know what they are. Okay. You can't extend that line any further.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Who do you think is the best brand marketing, or who has the best marketing in the world, do you think?
Shoot, man. It's so hard to say. I think that Google makes some of the most impactful ads that resonate with what I do in my life, but they're also a monopoly, so they can have fun with whimsy with what they do, and it doesn't matter.
I'll tell you what I think. I think Red Bull's the most disruptive marketing company in the world.
Well, Red Bull was going to be a media company before they were Red Bull. Because if you ever looked, do you know how bad Monster Energy has outsold Red Bull? Do you know their stock, that Monster Energy on the S&P 500, not Netflix, not anyone, was the #1 growth stock over 20 years was Monster Energy. No one even talks about Monster. They sell so much more than Red Bull. But Red Bull created, you know what the first one to do? They were a media company. Do you want to know why Topgolf succeeded that nobody saw? Everyone's like, who's going to do that? They built themselves as a media company. So when you're at Topgolf, you're watching Topgolf's channels, which have ads on them. They created media companies out of those things. It has switched over now. They have become, it's the people who can control those marketing narratives. Google doesn't win because you're searching. Google wins because they control their own supply demand curve. When someone comes in and they start advertising, every single plumbing company that comes in just drives up the price of advertising. Guess who wins? Google. Every time. So again, ironically, we're talking in circles about the same things, but all right. So future of the industry. So we're gonna get more towards experiences.
Yeah, more towards experience.
I think we're gonna go intimate. I think that we've been festivaled out. People don't want to be in a concert with 90,000 people.
Money can't buy experiences. That's what we're seeing a lot more of, and I think we're also going to see brands continue to get smarter in non-monetary value. Here's what I mean. Let's say a brand wants an artist to be in their TV commercial, right? There will be a certain amount of cash associated with that. But where the value proposition is going to come in is the brand is going to say, we're going to use your new single as the music bed in this commercial, and we're going to do a $50 million national TV.
Dude,
right?
You're talking U2 Vertigo that was on the Apple campaign when they signed the original Apple Music deal.
That's correct.
They released that album, and Vertigo did it because it was the Apple commercial.
That's correct.
Sprung them back. They were out of the lexicon of people for the longest time.
It was permanently embedded in the software code of that phone.
And there is a way to do it. There are so many commercial. You hear a commercial with the right track, that commercial becomes popular again, and some artists you haven't heard of in 50 years somehow go to tops of that charts. Music has changed in that sense, right?
Correct.
Like Katy Perry's album dropped, nobody cared. Nobody was downloading that album, but you had old songs that just hit it. Like the one that just came out to me was the Talking Heads. This Must Be the Place was just in a commercial, spiked the next day. People wanted, because they could plug their phone and be like, what's that song? And they listen to like, oh my God, I love the Talking Heads. So that exists more and more. But again, You're taking advantage of media that person has already bought to build the exposure of a brand.
Correct.
Those are very complicated partnerships.
Extremely complicated, because in a situation like that, you have to pay the record label, you have to pay the publishers and the songwriters. There are so many layers. I mean, that's why there's entire companies that exist to simply sync music. Anyway, your question was, where do you see the future going? I think more experiential, AR. I think money can't buy experiences. The word virality, as much as I hate that as the other three, is something that's very important because it is the truth.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see ultimately brands getting smarter. And here's what I'll say. At the end of the day, I don't know where AI is going, but AI will somehow, some way, in some form, become a important part of the celebrity endorsement and commercial ecosystem.
So it already is. And the reason I say that is because Live Nation is a data company. They preemptively know the interest in the artist before they book them coming into cities, which helps them plan tours and everything. That's not someone on a spreadsheet going, man. That is AI reading data, scanning data, and making preemptive decisions. The difference is right now we've been very reactive with AI. When it starts becoming proactive, where they can book 2 years out,
we'll see a fundamental shift.
Data they have, you will see it. Now, it's not taking over the world. I use it for this show. I use so much with AI. It can't even transcribe this whole show in one sitting. Like, we're not there yet. The machines are not coming. I promise you, we're not even close to that. There are so many things. I'm like, how is this so poorly done? But we will get there. And I think that the data becomes more and more important. I hate it because when you bring data in, you're not using your instinct and the creativity. You can't force to elicit an emotional reaction with data, right? That's one of the things we've forgotten, right? You can look at it. No one ever knew that Nirvana was going to hit with Smells Like Teen Spirit, but something was different. And the emotional connection was like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. They have tried to fake music now, come up with music. They plug it into your brain. They play these songs like, you should react to this. We can't fake creativity. So I think one of the things that's going to come about, we're going to go back to garage rock bands. Mm-hmm. We're going to go back to a guy and a band who just putting out killer music and a virality growing, not because it's spreading on social media, because people start talking about this is the guy I want to go see.
Hey, it goes back to word of mouth, what we just talked about.
And I think that's one of the things is we will almost revolt against the phones, and we will have a resurgence of like the old school part of music. Let's call it the mid 60s, early 70s. I won't talk about whether or not I want the drug revolution to come back. We'll keep that for another time. But it's going to be awesome. And we definitely already went over. Jasper, appreciate it, brother.
Thank you very much.
Marketing Madmen Action 106.3. We'll catch you next week.